Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for another edition of The Penalty. I'm your host, Trevor Cherney. Thank you so much for joining the show today. So today we're gonna go over, obviously the Lions and Giants game. Just what that looks like, and sort of more so looking to the future of the Lions season going forward. What needs to be addressed, what needs to be, what could be improved on. We'll take a look at that. And then, for the NBA, look, the East is wide open. And for the Pistons, could be this year, could it be this year for them to take it? And for them to win the East this year. So we'll take a look at that. So let's get started with the Lions and Giants game. So we all know about the Giants. I mean, they're in every shape and way of form one of the worst teams this year in the NFL. They have been pretty much non-competitive through most of this year. And earlier this year, Russell Wilson was starting. That wasn't working out. Russell Wilson is just not the same quarterback he used to be. Quite frankly, he has been the same in like 5 years. So, they needed to make it. They needed to make a change there. They did. Jackson Jarwin was starting there for a second, and then last week we saw a little bit of Jameis Winston. So, a little bit of famous Jameis. We all know about, his, the Lord will lift me from these pick sixes. I'm sorry. Jameis Winston is such a weirdo. Really, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston are the two weirdest quarterbacks in the NFL, and yet they're in the same quarterback room. So, I really hope for this game more anything else. I really hope this game is just a weird off between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. I think that would be more entertaining than actually watching the Lions just pound the Giants. Look, we all know how this game's going to go, right? Clearly, the Lions are a way better team than the Giants. And if the Lions lost to the Giants, I would lose all hope in this franchise. I'm serious. If that happened, I would lose all hope. Because the Giants, well, yes, on paper, they're not a bad team. This year, they have been incredibly bad. Their defensive line is good, obviously. They got Dexter Lawrence. Even though he's had a down year, they have Brian Burns, who's been great. Abdul Carter, who's only a rookie. They got Kayvon Thibodeau. So they have really good players on that D line, but that defense is atrocious, and that's thanks in part to their defensive coordinator is a complete bum. Shane Bowen, I don't know how this guy has a job. This guy is one of the worst defensive coordinators I have ever seen in my life. The way he runs his defense makes no sense whatsoever, and there were multiple times this year where the Giants could have won, but their defense just couldn't stop a nosebleed. So, listen, as much I would love to say, oh, well, if the Lions win big, that'd be huge. They need that, this, and that. But really, what it comes down to is, in the grand scheme of things, it just really won't mean anything, right? Okay, cool. Tap dancing on the grave of the Giants. I'm sorry, but that's not an accomplishment, okay? It's just not. The Giants are just complete garbage. But that doesn't change the fact that the Lions really haven't beaten nobody. They really haven't. What, the Ravens? Come on. The Bengals? The Browns? Okay, if you want to say the Bucks, sure. But the Bucks really haven't been all that good in the last month. So, look, obviously, the game Thanksgiving against the Packers, that's going to be the big game. And that's a game where if they win, it'll drastically help them, especially and especially help them in winning the division. But if they lose, I mean, it might keep on the playoffs. If they lose to Green Bay on Thanksgiving, that would be devastating. Because I mean, and then at that point, who you beat, you know? And I'm sorry, Green Bay hasn't been this world beater that we thought they were week 1 and 2. They just haven't. They haven't been the same team. Yeah, defensively they're really good, you know, but offensively it's been a struggle, you know. The play calling has been suspect at best. I mean, Jordan Love hasn't been all that great. Now, honestly, his offensive line has been, you know, they have some injuries there. Elkin Jenkins out for the year. That's huge for the Packers. You know, that's their center. I know. Oh, well, he has no weapons. This and that. Now, yes, he did lose Tucker Kraft, and that is huge. Okay, losing a tight end like Tucker Kraft for the year is never easy. It is never something easy to stomach. But with that being said, if this team still lost to the Packers on Thanksgiving, that would be devastating, to say the least. That might be their season. I'm not saying it will be, but it could be, just depending how things turn out. So, I mean, I'm not. Look. I know how this game's gonna come. Look, I know how this game is gonna go. Right, between the Lions and the Giants. Lions by 50. I mean, because the Giants are just completely awful. You know, even if the Lions tried to give them this win, the Giants will still find a way to lose. That's the Giants' MO. So I'm not gonna take. I'm not so cool. If they beat this team Sunday, great. Go beat Green Bay. That's what I care about. Go beat Green Bay. Or else this team is in serious trouble. So, yeah, go ahead. Tap dance on the grave of the Giants. Cool. Great. But beat somebody, actually. You know, beat somebody I care about. Beat Green Bay, a division rival. Go beat the Rams. Now, I'm not going to expect you to beat the Rams, but honestly, if you want your season to get on the right trajectory, then you have to. Then you know what? Then yeah, I do want you to beat both the Packers and the Rams, because then at least show me that yeah, you can still go against the big guys, the big dogs, right? That you can be, you know, at least compete for a Super Bowl in the NFC. So, I mean, look, we will see. But again, this Sunday though, I expect the Lions to beat the Giants handily. So, and if they don't, that'll be a really big concern for me. Even if they struggle to beat the Giants, I will be very concerned. But I expect the Lions to win. So that's that. And then now onto the Pistons. So, like I said earlier, the Eastern Conference this year is wide open. You know, and now look, this is a perfect opportunity. Look, if you're the Detroit Pistons, you really haven't been relevant in years, right? Last year you got a taste. Last year, I will give you this. You got a taste of what it was like to be somewhat relevant again, right? Because you at least made it to the playoffs, and you at least had at least a competitive playoff series against the Knicks. So, which look, I mean, last year I was expecting the team to make the playoffs anyways, so that was nice, right? To see that. But now this year, there's actual expectations. And the Eastern Conference is wide open this year. If you're the Pistons, why not make a big move at the trade deadline? Why not make a move that screams, we're all in? One of the things that the Pistons do really well is, they play really good defense. They're really good at rebounding the ball, too. And they've been really good at shooting the ball as well. And that's in part thanks to Cade and also to their newest free agent, who they acquired, Duncan Robinson. He's been a huge part of that team as well, especially shooting threes on the perimeter. So, look, I mean, again, if you're the Pistons, what do you have to lose? You've been largely irrelevant, like I said, for the past, at least in the over 15 years, right? And last year you got a taste. And look, if you're the Pistons now, why not take that shot? Why not make an all-in move for this year? The East Conference is wide open. Now, sure, you still got the Cavs. Toronto's in the mix as well. They're playing good as well. So, look, you got some teams, in the East who are still going to be tough. But ultimately the Celtics are not going to come on. They're not going to be in that, just because Jason Tatum is injury wise, he's he obviously can't play. So, right now because he's injured. So, I mean, why not if you're the Pistons? Why not try and take the East this year? I mean, they look really, really good. And the record's really good. And even without Cade and several of their starters playing, you can still see this team still fight and still try and play, incredibly just competitive basketball night in and night out. They're learning how to finish games. They're not blowing games, and when Cade's on the court, he makes some clutch plays and some clutch shots on the interior. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's, right now the Pistons are having a really good season. And again, my whole thing is, if the conference is wide open, then you almost have to make a big move, right? Because you don't know what other time you will have your shot and making a run to the NBA Finals and making a run to the Eastern Finals. Getting there at least, getting to a conference finals game. Wouldn't that be nice for this team to take that route? Because again, it was just a couple of years ago where this team was down all the way to the bottom, seemed hopeless. You saw Troy Weaver and Monty Williams basically stealing money from this team. That was the Pistons 2 years ago. So looking back then, and now looking at now, yeah, make the big splash move. Go for it. Why not? What do you have to lose? Seriously, what will this team have to lose? They've been, like I said, they have been largely not very good in the past decade. This is your time. This is it. If you're Tom Gores, if you're Trajan Lane, if you're JB Bickerstaff, I don't know why I said JD, JB Bickerstaff, do you absolutely have to make a big move collectively as a team to also show the NBA, hey, not only are we for real this season, but we're now for real for the next 2 or 3 years. We have our window. Let's go. Let's get this thing going. That's what I would do if I were them. Anyways, that's it for the show. I will see you guys later. Next week, it's gonna be a little bit of a different schedule. So obviously next week is Thanksgiving. So we will have a show out. Obviously probably Monday or Tuesday, just depending how the schedule looks like. For a preview show, which would be, you know, really cool. So I'll take a look at the Packers and Lions game for Thanksgiving. That'll be awesome. We might get into a little bit of Michigan, Ohio State. Maybe. I would love to, because obviously that's always a big game around this year. So I think it'll be really cool. Talk about that game and what it could look like this year. So we'll get into that next week. Talk about Michigan and Ohio State. Next week, and talk about Lions Packers. Like I said, we'll probably have a preview show out probably Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll probably have our thoughts on the game hopefully by Friday or Saturday. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the podcast. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys later.